Was it like an area 59?
So it's not understand.
Which side?
But
It's our first one.
yeah.
Absolutely.
When you got 3, but it's like really strange.
Well, it's funny that my cell phone and my computer are not on the same time. One is.
See, now my job. I was like you were last time.
This is right. Are you?
This is short. Yeah, it's funny. They gotta do the-
And they're kind of in their income.
Cheap academics in the books.
But it's.
But the original was no station.
Oh, good.
That's what I'm.
Part of it.
Oh.
It's been a little while. Three for interviews. Put in Randy, all of us. That's a pleasure.
Yes, we should have fun. In-laws will be there.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. Fine. Josh, before Steve. Okay. I just need something good to apply.
Yeah, it's been on the.
Yeah.
My dad will trim. People trim 2 lines. All their. That one's run all
I
the
heard Brittany
people.
Farrell was gonna apply. I'd like her to apply. Girls have one.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
Okay. We will call the meeting to order. If everybody would join Mr. Larry, Trustee Smith, and then pledge allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call. Ellie.
There's a quorum.
Excellent. I'm excited to introduce the Gillette Area Leadership Class known as Galley of 2024. Don't know who my facilitators are. Okay, right there. Yes. So I would love for you fine ladies to step forward and then let them tell us a little bit about your class and then have everybody introduce themselves.
Absolutely. So this is the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you go to the podium just for that part?
Yes, sir.
So that you know we are on Zoom and it's being recorded.
So this is the second best galley class ever, because every galley class thinks that they're the best galley class ever. They are a great group. They have learned lots this year. This is their next to last class or session before they graduate. And we have a variety of people all over the place. I am Tamara Atkins. I am a facilitator and I am with Pinnacle Bank. I'm Jerica Mills, facilitator, and I'm with Gillette Funeral Service. Melinda Perry, facilitator, and I'm with Happy Girls Don't Do That. And we can start way over there unless you want them all to come to the podium.
I think for this purpose,
Okay.
let's roll around.
We'll start over there.
I'm Nolan Bray, Dry Fork Station.
Amanda Howe, Gillette College Foundation.
Spring Sandelli, the Sheriff's Office, I'm their attorney. Teresa Produit from First Interstate Bank.
Laramie Seymour with First Northern Bank of Wyoming. I'm an ag loan officer.
Jacob Smith, I'm the branch supervisor at A&D Bank.
Pam Oz, I'm a loan officer at Pinnacle Bank.
Joe Helms, First National Bank.
Haley Knox, Collins Communications.
Conjo Slattery, Eye Care Associates.
Sarah Olson, University of Wyoming, Campbell County Extension, Community Vitality and Health.
Roberto Orlana, Public Relations at Campbell County Health.
Mike Schover, Energy Capital Economic Development.
Lisa Jackson, Campbell County Health Business Development.
Jordan Frost, Campbell County Health, Human Resources.
Amanda Seppo, Campbell County Health Physician Recruiter.
Amanda Milnes, I'm the accounting manager for Campbell County Clerk's Office. Brittany Locking, Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club.
And that is our class.
Excellent. You have a great class. So I think there's some trustees that would say you're the third or fourth best class. I myself was a member of Galley, and Trustee Palmer was in the inaugural Galley class. So when you see the pictures from 1965,
It was the junior high edition.
do you happen to remember what year that was?
I believe it was 1980, 85, 86.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think Roger Jordan was in there with you,
Dr. Jordan was in there.
Tom Lubnow,
I'll look now.
Sharon Graff, I remember that.
Your mom was. Yeah. An illustrious group of individuals, and then myself.
Who are absolutely strong leaders within our community.
Absolutely.
Does the class have any questions for the trustees before you move to your next?
Thank you.
What's your number one goal right now?
I think our 24, I'll speak for me, probably our 24-25 budget as it's that season. Certainly we're moving towards that right now. We then, I think it's always students first as our trustees. You know, if you're asking me what the goal is as a trustee, it's to put students first in this institution first, but as where we're going, we also have the NZ building coming forth here in the next period of time, and I think that's exciting for our campus as well. I'll defer to any other trustees.
An accreditation.
Yeah,
Just say the accreditation
that's kind of a big deal. I
process.
maybe missed that one. That's my mistake. That's been, as Dr. Oberlander would put it, it's been a heavy lift and continues to be. So, so my question, I would ask any one of you, just maybe one or two to step up and tell me to this point, you're 90% done. What is your number one takeaway from Galley? So you guys didn't do any communications part then?
That's today, isn't it?
I honestly, with Galley, I honestly met a lot of good people in the community, and I also met a lot of very different backgrounds that we have here in our class. Is very, they're all higher ups. So that, for me, it was, I met new resources and new friends.
Excellent. Anybody else?
I would say the same thing with me. I knew in my leadership position at the bank, so being able to build my network in the financial group in town, it's kind of been really awesome. And all these amazing people are super good at what they do. So it's been an amazing experience. Excellent.
It definitely shed a lot of light on all the services that our community has to offer that might not be talked about, you know, around your own dinner table or even in your own social circles. So that was a big takeaway for me.
So please keep that in mind as things come forward and as you advocate for Campbell County in the future. I think that's a big deal. I think sometimes that gets lost of all the services that we have in this wonderful county and that get provided, and they don't come free, but you know, so. Well, thank you everybody for coming. Enjoy. Yes, go ahead.
You know, the older generation kind of set this city up and the county up. And of course, we're getting, and it's nice to see the younger generation. They're going to take over for us that are kind of old. And I really encourage you to get involved with activities, with boards, run for political offices. That's fun. As a parent growing up, and a coach and an astronomer, why, so many of us at that time, and I always credit Senator Enzi for creating this community and this county as it is, because he was a visionary. And always be a visionary. You can't look to yesterday. You got to look to tomorrow. And that's what's going to drive Gillette. And you people are going to be a lot of the drivers. So that's my take for the, and I know Trustee Palmer could really top that.
No, I.
Well said.
Yeah,
Say-
Chairman Rudd, I think Trustee Williams did a great job. Continue your leadership journey by being on boards and indoctrinating yourselves, continue to indoctrinate yourselves into the community. And thank you for being leaders in Campbell County.
Well, Tamara, Jarek, and Melinda, thank you very much for bringing me in here and being part of our board today. Enjoy the rest of the tour of the campus. It's a beautiful campus.
Thank you.
What's your class rating?
Well, I've been Dustin Martin, Luke Wilkins, Ryan Grad. An interesting story, they used to do the police dog demonstration. And at the time, Deputy Matheny, now sheriff, said, I'd like to be the volunteer. Dog bit me across the back of the neck, and I had to go to the hospital and blew my ear, you know.
That's not.
I'll show you some pictures.
That's like a horror story.
They don't allow civilians to be the dummy anymore. Okay, I'll show you the picture sometime. Moving on. If everybody would look at the agenda, is there any additions or deletions to the agenda for Wednesday, April 17th?
Chair McGrath, there is one agenda item that our facilities director asked us to add. So we can keep a project in I-Hall moving forward, and that would be the approval of spending authority up to $110,000 for phase 1 repair in the residence hall. If we could add that under new business, I would appreciate it.
Okay, do we need a motion to add that or just approve the agenda as with that addition? I would assume,
I would
correct?
move to approve the agenda with that addition.
Second it.
All right, it's been moved by trustee Gee and seconded by trustee Wasserberger to approve the agenda with the addition of spending authority in new business. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Approval of the consent agenda. If everybody would look that over, and I would entertain, unless somebody wants to remove something, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I so move.
Second.
Excellent. Trustee Anderson moved and trustee Palmer second to approve the consent agenda for the regular Gillette Community College District Board of Trustees meeting held today, April 17th. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. For the good of the district, student spotlight, Dr. Overland.
Chair McGrath, trustees, it's my pleasure to introduce Christina Redmond and Dean Travis Scrub to introduce our student spotlight for this month. And Travis and Christina, would you like to come forward and introduce our fabulous student who is a welding in our welding program here at Gillette College? You should join them at the podium.
So I'll just introduce Miss Christina Redmond. She is our welding faculty and she'll take it over from here. Thank you.
So this is going on my 4th year as a welding faculty member here. This is Georgia Ostrowski. She is Ostrowski. This is her first year here. She is currently the student of the month and also the CTE student of the year. She is being nominated for those. From the words of Troy, throughout the 2023 school year, I have personally witnessed Georgia attendance and academic success in the welding technology program. Her attendance has been and is currently outstanding with all of her welding courses. On a daily basis, Georgia shows her eager and dedicated passion for welding and is always applying herself to excel her welding skills. Georgia shows maturity, discipline, and helps her fellow peers and consistently being present and contributing extensively within our welding program. Not only does she have an outstanding attendance record, she also succeeds in her welding academics and shows great leadership among fellow students. She has patience, skills, and the ability to think critically and the leadership qualities needed to perform successfully. And that's from Troy. I nominated Georgia. She participates and always wants to do better. I do not have to struggle asking her to do another bead because she can be better and she wants to be better herself. She's funky, creative, and comes in. I love that she's very artistic. She comes in with different color hair every few weeks. And then she also is participating in the Skills USA Leadership organization. She was going to do her welding sculpture. And next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we will be in Casper for our state skills competition. And she is also part of our state senate. She is very active in the student activities and part of being a July College student from here. So, but this is Georgia, and she has done phenomenal this year, and look forward to seeing her next year.
Georgia, would you like to say anything? We have a few questions for you, if that's okay, so I may have you step over to the microphone. So, you're a freshman. Are you from Gillette?
No,
Where are you from?
Minnesota.
And why Gillette, Wyoming?
My mom and my stepdad moved here
Excellent.
and the tech program teams.
Okay. So my other question is, what's your favorite type of welding?
TIG.
Okay, excellent. Why?
It's more detail oriented.
Oh. Any other questions from the trustees? Let's move forward.
So where do you see your future taking you with this skill?
I'd like to go back home and work in Minnesota and be closer to friends and family again.
Any other? Trustee Williams?
Explain your state competition. So
Yeah.
how's that set up?
So it's through the Skills USA. They have competitions here at Gillette, and then it's for the machine tool and robotics. And then in Casper is where all of our welding and other competitions are happening there, but I'm not 100% sure other than the welding competitions, but yeah, that's as much as I know.
Excellent.
So when you go down there, how many different welds do you have to know?
It depends. So if you're in the sculpture track, they haven't done testing until this year, like actual in the shop, you're doing welds testing. It's mostly like a computer test that you have to take if you're in the sculpture track. But they are having us do welds while we're there. And we only have to demonstrate the welds that we used when we were sculpting our sculptures.
So what kind of sculpture did you make?
I attempted to recreate a sculpture that I had made in previous years. It's a ceramic sculpture called Samuel Franz. I wanted to make a metal version of him.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Trustee Paul?
Can we see a picture when you get all done of the sculpture?
Well, I unfortunately won't be able to finish it in time for competition. I overbooked myself and will hope to compete again next year with a finished sculpture now that I know just how intense the workload is. But I can send you what I have right now.
We'd love to see that.
Love to see it, yeah.
Mhm.
And well done learning from, learning to manage your schedule. I think that's part of what you're here for, truly. I mean,
Yeah.
So you will be back next year as a sophomore.
Yes, sir.
Great. As much as we hate to lose you to Minnesota to the workforce, we love having you here at Gillette College.
Happy to be here.
Excellent. Anything else?
Shall we take a picture?
I would love that. We're gonna take a picture. We'd love to have both in here. We're gonna come around front.
Perfect. Occasionally we do, I can twist this on. I don't really. It's not my page. Stand in front of.
Yeah, you don't get to be on the side of the picture. That we were going.
Wait, switch me. I think we'll be able to.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
We need a stool. 1, 2, 3.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Georgia, thank you very
Best
much.
of luck.
Thanks for coming.
Good luck in
Congratulations.
Casper.
Well done.
Yeah. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Good news from the trustees. Any good news from the trustees?
My computer works.
That is exciting.
Moving the right way.
I was, Mr. Chair, I was just excited when I drove into the parking lot.
And what's full?
I had the opportunity to park on the very back side of the parking lot. And so we certainly thank all our mining industry, our extraction industry for having their MSHA classes here and the opportunity for the college to participate in that great program. So it's nice to see all of them here.
Absolutely.
Chair,
Yes.
one of the things that I think is really neat is you walk in, you see these schedule of events. All the things that are going on at this college is pretty exciting. And I just think that's a great thing.
It's fantastic. Thank you for saying that. Yes. Anything else?
Chair, if I may, I just wanted to extend a heartfelt thank you for this whole Gillette campus family, as I called it. Ellie has a thank you card, but thank you for the call and the text and the plant and everything and the support since the passing of my mom on March 28th. So I appreciate you guys and I appreciate your support. It's a blessing for her physically that she's gone, but she's definitely gonna be missed by our family.
Anything else? Okay, moving on. Organizational reports. I will start with president reports. Dr. Oberlander.
Trustees, it is a pleasure to be with you today. Spring is always a busy time on campus. The last couple weeks have been exceedingly busy with finishing up with Leadership Wyoming here in a couple weeks, but also with the Higher Learning Commission meetings here at the end of this week. So we did have a good visit to the Higher Learning Commission annual meeting. Dr. Spriggs, Dean Martin Fashbaugh, and Dean Susan Surge attended. All of us focusing on different aspects of accreditation and different aspects of our journey ahead. So my focus really was to look at the Higher Learning Commission as a whole and the updates that the president of the Higher Learning Commission presented, as well as updates from Washington, DC, those types of activities. We do have proposed new criterion for accreditation. It doesn't change the criterion. It's actually somewhat simplified. And I'm happy to share these with you so you can review them further. But the biggest difference is they've removed the subcomponents for each of the criterion. And so we still have to meet those subcomponents. Colleges were using some of those as they had to write to those. Research institutions certainly are different than community colleges. Community colleges don't do research. Some community colleges were standing up some research aspects of their college. So removing those subcomponents and developing an evidence handbook is going to be very helpful to us as well. The other difference is the criterion all become very mission focused. And so our mission, as you know, is very important to us. And as we look at writing to the criterion and speaking to the criterion, the mission is embedded in each one now. We went from 5 criterion now to 4. Teaching and learning for student success used to be 2 separate criterion. It's now combined into 1. They didn't reduce any of the evidence that we need to collect, but they just combined that into 1 criterion because you really can't have one without the other. So they made it 1. But when we look at our mission, so for example, when we talk about teaching and learning, we need to look at our mission, right? We talk about having an innovative learning environment throughout the lifespan. How are we doing that? What's the evidence that we can collect to prove that we're meeting our mission throughout the lifespan of our community? So certainly a lot more details to talk about. Happy to share. Right now, it's in review. The commission is gathering feedback right now. And the trustees, the HLC Board of Trustees will vote on adopting the revised criterion at their June 27th, 28 meeting. I'm sorry, they'll have the second reading. And then the final criterion will be approved in July and then go into effect in September. By U.S. Department of Education standards and requirements, all the accrediting bodies have to review their criterion every 5 years. So this is the cycle of the next review for HLC. So one of the pieces that got a lot of feedback from the presidents was sufficient board autonomy. In discharging its fiduciary responsibility, the institution's governing body is autonomous and empowered to act in the best interest of the institution. There was a lot of conversation about what autonomous means, right? Autonomous means, as it was defined by HLC, autonomous means you're free from pressure from outside entities. You're free from political pressure. So they're going to look at that one and see if they can revise that a little bit more. But proposed criteria. One of the other pieces that got a lot of attention is credentials, right? Is the alternative post-secondary credentials. So for example, our workforce development program, where we're giving certificates or we're giving credentials that are non-credit bearing. And so HLC has stood up the credential lab. And so I'm looking forward to learning more about that. I didn't get a chance to visit with that team, but really looking at what HLC is doing to address learners, moving from the word students to learners lifelong learning. The employers, what are employers looking for? We know that our employers are looking for skilled workforce. What does that mean, right? Does that mean that we can always have to offer a degree, or is there other ways for us to train the workforce? And colleges and universities, what is the guidance that we need to navigate this change in higher education? So I think we have some really interesting things that we are putting in place. The challenge for us is the formula for the state funding allocation model doesn't include non-credit bearing courses. So I think those are conversations that you'll hear more and more from your colleagues, our colleagues from across the state. But also, again, I'm looking forward to learning more about HLC's credentialing lab. A couple other things very quickly. You all know there's a new FAFSA out, the application for federal financial aid. The FAFSA was intended to make the process easier. That was really the goal. And so what's happening now is that has been launched, and about 50% of applications are coming back with errors. 20% of those errors are IRS errors. 10% are calculation errors, and 20% are the normal errors we've seen throughout the history of FAFSA, right? Normal data entry errors. Well, what's happening is there's now not a way to go back in quickly and correct those errors. So it's delaying the ICERs, which is the document that comes down from the Department of Education to the colleges, so the colleges can do the awarding. So there's concern that it's taking longer, which it disproportionately affects lower income students for attending college. It's an unintended consequence of this law. The Department of Education has to work through it. There's no shortcut. They just have to work through it. So I'll be visiting with Kylie Dotson, who is our Assistant Director of Financial Aid, soon to be Registrar, to see how this is impacting our students here at Gillette College and if there's anything we can do from the backside to ensure those students have support so they can begin their education on time. The other piece, of course, is AI. And as Trustee Smith pointed out, it's really important that we say artificial intelligence because we are in Wyoming. Lots and lots of conversations about artificial intelligence and lots of sessions. And in fact, I was riding down the elevator with a woman who said that's her only job. And I quickly gave her my card and said, please call me so we can talk. But I have asked Dr. Fashbach, the Dean of Arts and Sciences, to stand up a task force. Students are going to use artificial intelligence. We need to figure out how it should be best used at Gillette College. Much conversation around, remember when we had slide rulers and calculators came onto the scene, and how can we ever move away from slide rules and calculators, and it's going to be cheating and all those pieces. But we really need to get our arms wrapped around artificial intelligence. We need to stand up our governance, our policies about it. How do we operate artificial intelligence within the institution? As I speak, how the artificial intelligence simulator is getting unboxed. That's a WIP-funded initiative. He's getting unboxed, and training has begun with that. So I look forward to the work that group brings forward and together. And then, of course, they always like to give the trends, right? So this document, I'm happy to make copies and share it with you. The number one trend, artificial intelligence. 2, teaching, learning, and enrollment paradigm shifts. Outcomes and accountabilities for programs and institutions. Gainful employment is circling back around. Gainful employment's all about financial aid. Are students graduating? Are they going to be able to pay for their debt? So it's not institutional, but it goes down to the program level. New business models for emerging innovation and sustainability, short-term credentials and providers, politicalization of higher education, speaking out, conflict voices, civility, safety on campus, talent management. Presidents are leaving faster than they ever have before, and how do we sustain presidents for these important positions? So good conference, certainly opportunities next year. I believe next year it's in Chicago, and then they're going to move for the first time to Denver. I think they're going to move the conference. We look forward to that. Just real quickly on a couple other things. I told you at our workshop yesterday about some Yes House students that are over at Area 59. And I just want to share this with you because I was so pleased with the work that's happening with Yes House students who come and take a class at Area 59. So they come to Area 59. There's 4 students right now coming through a dual enrollment class. They've never had access to technology. In fact, one young man said he would always watch videos about 3D printing, and he never had access to the technology. He's now designing and 3D printing a robotic arm, a mini robotic arm. And he's doing all the components, measuring, designing it in Fusion. That young man has a bright future in engineering, and it's because he had exposure to those systems and that software at Area 59. And he was so excited to show me. Another young man was coding the larger robotic arms that are there in Area 59, programming them to do certain tasks. He was making the arm move objects, and there were some objects that weren't moving correctly, so he was correcting coding. Just astonishing work. One young man is fabricating a rocket fire pit shaped in the form of a rocket. Machining and welding is in that young man's future. So the lives that are being changed because of Area 59 and because of this institution are it's just phenomenal. And so I'm going to go back next week and see their projects. And so just very quickly, I did ask Renee to give you an update on our IT project and project management, because there are some really key dates coming up that you all really need to know, and it's much more powerful coming from Renee than it is from me. So Renee, if you could give the trustees a quick update on our IT infrastructure separation, that would be great.
Well, thank you, Dr. Oberlander, trustees. So I asked, kind of showed Ellie where to show this, or to be able to show this to you. But just know it is out on the bridge under IT. We've got a project resources, and this document is out there. So for future reference, you guys can go out there and take a look.
Okay, just a sec.
And it's so much better to be able to see it than to.
While they're loading it, I would say we were excited Dr. Overlander got back out of Chicago with the protesters blocking the road into O'Hare Airport.
My cab driver Clifford got me there at about 4:45 a.m. So early before the protest started. So.
Okay.
So one of the things I did want to say is our target has been that the majority of spaces are migrated to GCCD by the start of fall semester this year. So starting May 28th, our team will be starting significant work to migrate the wireless in the tech building, along with the start of migrating all the classroom spaces. In June 10th, we'll be starting in-house science. Doing that work, we'll also be starting Area 59. Starting June 17th, we'll tackle the Pronghorn Center. And then in July 8th, we'll start at the main building. So really by the end of July, we'll have Gillette wireless across campus. So I know that's been, a big thing. So we're excited about that. Definitely a lot going on, a big lift, but I'm confident we'll be able to meet our targets. We're also looking to October for Sheridan to have most of their services removed. So that'll be exciting as well, because that'll mean primarily it's Gillette College. So we're working to get that split taken care of, but did want to share that with you guys and then let you know if you want more details or what have you. It's there, but I know network has been a big thing. So I'm excited to be able to say, okay, this is what our target is, and look forward to seeing you guys in July when I can say we're done with that part. So
Excellent. So the question I may have for you two, actually, real quick. One, will the connectivity be better with newer equipment and what's going on, the wireless connectivity?
So some of the things that we're doing to start is it's a 1-for-1. So wherever there was a Sheridan access point, we'll be putting a Gillette access point. Once we get our network in place, then we'll evaluate, okay, do we have some areas where we need to increase? I did budget for that so that we can
purchase some additional devices if we need to. But we wanted to get it in place and then evaluate how that service is.
The other question I have, and this maybe is both you and Dr. Blender, new students coming on campus next year, did they then come on with the Gillette.org or, GilletteCollege.org email, or are they still in NWCCD?
They are still NWCC.
Until we're totally, till accreditation is, okay, excellent. Any other questions for Renee?
So is this like one piece of the hallmark for in the steps of accreditation for us? Is this something that will be like checked off a box?
Chair McGrath,
Please.
Trustee Wasserberger. So what will happen this summer, along with, of course, work with our friends in the academic arena, Dr. Spriggs, is we'll begin to identify a cohort of students who we can take from registration to graduation. It'll be a small group of students. In the summer of, well, probably next spring, we'll begin working to get that .edu account when we are in candidacies, when we can get the .edu. But this fall, all of our registration systems should be up, so we want to start testing it, and we want to be able to take a full group of students, a cohort of students through. So once they get that, we get that .edu, that's when we will start bringing students through, but it's certainly an important part of it. It's that evidence to be able to show that we can take a student starting to finish with all the support systems in between.
And that's what spurred my question was, it seems like to me that this is some way that we're demonstrating that we're capable of doing this with the resources that it takes.
The ability.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's why, thank you.
Thanks. This is super exciting. So thank you for all the work that's going in behind the scenes. One of the things I've expressed since sitting at this table is the cell phone boosting capacity. Some of these buildings, like particularly here, I don't get very good cell service. I don't know what that costs or how that would look, but I think that's something we ought to also try to address. A lot of companies don't want their employees on open Wi-Fi network. And so they're expected to use cell phones as the other, so.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that feedback and we'll take a look at what our options are.
Thank you.
Anybody
Thank you.
else for Renee? Okay, thank you. Thanks. No, Renee, anything more?
Chair McGrath, trustees, that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for President Oberland?
That one.
Oh, trustee, I'm sorry, I got one. Trustee Palmer.
Thank you, Chair McGrath. So, quick question. So the new criteria from HLC, since we've started the process of accreditation, which criteria are we underneath the old criteria, or are we going to be underneath the new criteria? And do they give us some leeway, because if they're adopting this in July, I think you said, does that impact our timing at all?
Chair McGrath, trustee Palmer. So all of the schools that have to go through evaluations will have to meet the new criterion beginning September 1st, 2025. And so we will write to this new criterion. It really doesn't change what we would be writing to under the old criterion. We'd still be collecting the same evidence. They've moved some of those subcomponents into assumed best practices. And some of those examples in the subcomponents were examples of evidence that needs to be collected. So we'll see them over in the evidence handbook. But the criterion themselves, what we have to collect the evidence, really isn't too much. And right now, we're actually writing to the application questions. So we'll begin the criterion work. We'll start that this fall and continue on into next spring and summer as we write to the criterion and get ready for that evaluation.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Absolutely. Any other questions for Dr. Oberlander? Okay. Moving on, Gillette College Advisory Board. Obviously, we have Vice Chair, Mr. Scott Durgan.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pinch hitting for Angie, I guess, today. I am the vice chair, so I get to come in when she's not available. But what's really interesting about it is the industry sector update is actually on healthcare, which Angie would have done a lot better, I can tell you. So
Coal and energy last time.
I know, it's kind of interesting. So I'm going to read what I'm talking about here, and I know there's several in the room that can probably add to this, but it was very interesting. One of the things about the Gillette Advisory Board is that we have a cross section of industry people, And it's really neat to get that industry sector report so that we can all kind of see what's going on and then see how it could affect the college too. So on the healthcare side, recruitment and retention into the profession has become more and more difficult since 2020, which we all know what happened in 2020. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of things on the news, different things that the nurses and healthcare people went through. The current population is more transient than past generations, so they're willing to move and go wherever they need to. They're willing to relocate. They value flexibility and a work-life balance. And you hear that more and more about the upcoming labor. They don't want to work overtime. So what's happening right now is that there's a labor shortage. So they're asking the people that are working to work overtime, and they don't want to. And I think the pay has actually got to where it's much better today with some of the healthcare, but there's also pockets of the healthcare that probably need better pay. The other thing that we're seeing is that you're seeing a lot more of the home health is growing because it's a lot more optionality for those workers. They can stay at home, they can do some work at home, and then they can travel and do other things. So really what we talked about, Ryan Shuck, also physical therapist, talked a little bit about his side of his industry, but it's really trying to understand the generation that's coming up in that workforce and their needs. And there's some of it's really good, but some of it is something that we're going to have to deal with longer term because there's shortages and then people don't want to work longer. So it's a combination that's pretty tough. So I guess when I look at this and what does it mean to Gillette College, keep up the good work on the nursing program. That really means a lot. We talked a lot about too is as we evolve and we get out on our own, is there any way to do other medical industries through the Gillette College? The only other thing, we're working on our bylaws, went through them again. The three of us did, Angie, myself, and Jerry Tysted, and got that going forward. So hopefully we can get that approved and move on.
It's on the agenda
That's
today.
it.
Excellent. Any questions for Vice Chair Durgan?
Chair McGrath, I don't know that I have a question other than just to fill in with the governor's appointed workforce, healthcare workforce task force. So interesting, this is a conversation that's happening around the state and the governor recognizes it. The first meeting of that task force was held a couple of weeks ago. We heard from the state director of nursing in Alabama and the work they have done there to really work with the licensing boards, to work with scope of practice, and how can we open that field up a little bit? We certainly want the stringent requirement. How can we get more students across the finish line to meet those requirements in different ways? And so there's a lot of really fabulous people assembled for this task force, and I look forward to the next meeting that happen to keep you posted as we move forward through it.
Excellent. Any other questions for Scott? Okay, Mr. Durgan, thank you very much. I lost my place. Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs report, Dr. Barry Spriggs.
Chair McGrath, trustees. I'm going to give a brief overview as to some of the happenings within academic and student affairs. One of the major things is as we are closing, of course, this semester up, we're also preparing for, as we're preparing for commencement, we're gearing up for Professional Development Week in August, as well as convocation. So we had put out, I think April 15th was the deadline as to getting feedback as to what type of sessions for Professional Development Week that we will be actually standing up in August. There's also a number of areas over the past few months in academics that we've been addressing, particularly in order to finalize the faculty handbook. And that ranges anywhere from tenure and really looking at our procedures. The policy, as we know, does exist, but the procedures and what are the benefits of tenure here at Gillette. Lab calculations, which is something that all the community colleges in Wyoming is facing actually. And and the Vice President of Academic Affairs will be meeting about that in probably in a couple of weeks, really, in another month, really. And going through some of these types of situations to try to find consistency. In other words, if you're teaching a lab compared to a lecture, what does that count towards your load? In addition to bylaws, the opportunities that we have for faculty that aren't making load and trying to standardize what's acceptable and what may not be. As noted with our strategic plan, one of the things that is part of that to inform that is the academic plan. So we have begun to examine that also, as well as within our student information system, a colleague, our own curriculum planning. So there's a lot going on. One of the things that is important as we're moving forward is really looking at those 26 programs that we did take through the commission and really examine the feasibility of those as we're moving forward with accreditation. There are changes that come about through Sheridan. So we also have to see what it's going to be like if we want to modify these programs prior to going through HLC. And of course, the 25% rule does exist. So if Sheridan's modifying these now, we have to keep track of those as we're going forward. With the hiring of a registrar as well as an academic coordinator, we are going to be focused on those components of what we might consider a catalog, okay, which is definitely a criteria that as we're going through accreditation, a lot of those things we point to is that type of information. And as noted before, us really moving away slowly from Sheridan. So for us to have our own processes for application, for graduation, as an example, what is our credit hour definition and making sure it complies with the state as well as Department of Ed. Moving into intersessions. Okay, right now there's no winter session, which I think that we need to examine that time period over our holiday break to help students keep moving forward, really. And as well as those program sheets and given the best information we can. So sometimes what you'll see, say in engineering, students need to take statistics or calc or something like that. And that might be in the program, but what are the prereqs to that? So when students are looking at that, and parents, how long is it going to take? We want to be as truthful as possible with our public information out there that says, even though you have to take Calc 1, well, before that, you have to take these 2 or 3 other courses also, so that all the information that we have outwardly facing is consistent, of course. FERPA, of course, is always something, developing their own forms that range from substitution forms to request forms for a change of major, as an example. All those things are going to be important. We did do a mock, what was it, diploma last time around. So these are the types of things as we're building these eligibility, those little idiosyncrasies that we will be addressing as we're moving forward. In addition, we've had our open houses last semester. Now we're in the mix of registration days. So those students that we have carried from last fall, and we hope to come in September, August, really. We want to get those students registered as soon as possible too. So they have their schedule before the summer. And of course, then we know summer melt and to hold on to those particular students. The registration days, even though intended for new students, we are also trying to capture those students that are here. And really our returning students, honestly, my hope is that by the time they're leaving, we have 100% of them registered. I mean, that's the goal, of course, because sometimes we let them go and now they're trying to register in the summer at the same time. You know, they're not getting their classes or the classes aren't going to fit their schedule. So it is twofold as to what our focus is there. We continue, of course, also to one of the things that the students requested as in February when we had an open forum for students was more physical activity. A lot of the activities that we were doing, of course, and we still do video nights and things like that. But even our Easter egg hunt and Easter egg run, the paintball, you know, those types of things, really. They were looking for more activity. So we've been focusing on more physical things for students to be doing, of course, also. Along with our student information system, we are, of course, moving forward with the development and implementation of our CRM or our client relationships management, which will allow us to track those students. as to where they're at. The student handbook, we're finalizing the revisions of those handbooks also, as well as, once again, one of the biggest areas that we've been dealing with for a while is that conduct process. And it's a long process, due process and everything else involved. So methodically, we're going through those types of things. The Student Involvement Bank will be next week, as well as along with the academic plan, we're setting up our enrollment management plan. Now, all these need to be feeding into our overall strategic plan. So there's a lot going on there. ECV, of course, athletics, they continue to be recruiting and trying to finalize those rosters. We did hear earlier about Skills USA coming about and everything. We will have approximately 18 students next week going to Casper and 4 advisors for that. Our workforce and community education, one of the pivots that we were trying to really do was really that community aspect of it. So we had some faculty this past semester that has done some things in literature appreciation as an example, as well as technical writing, tactical leadership. I think we do well in that technical aspect, and I think we have to spread out a little more in regards to the community education and development also. And finally, one of the biggest aspects that we've been focused on this past year was professional development. And part of the strategic plan, priority 4, has that within there. And we've made a conscious and purposeful effort to try to get people out, okay, and to develop and bring stuff back. So in addition to, of course, HLC, that is the president mentioned, I attended an ACRO, which is the American Association for Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers, which focused a lot on FERPA, of course, and financial aid. But one of the biggest, besides FERPA, was what happens if we do violate FERPA and those steps that we have to be conscious of, really, and the difference between internal violations and external or third party. So that's something that, as we're moving forward, that we're going to be doing more education on. We know we violate. I mean, if it's just that we attach a file that we're not supposed to, or we reply all to something, what steps are necessary for those types of things? As well as strategic enrollment management was a big part of that also. With HLC, a lot of my sessions focus on shared or participatory like governance, teaching and learning centers that support the accreditation process, of course, the criteria that, as the president mentioned, as well as the general education, which was one of the things during our response for an interview they talked about was that general education program and how we may want to emphasize that. But in addition to those conferences, we have faculty members and staff attending the National Science Teachers Association meetings, the Wyoming Math Statistics Physics Articulation meetings, hydraulic training that will be coming up. ASIN, we had the dean as well as a faculty member attend that accreditation Commission for Education and Nursing, I think 2 weeks ago. We're going through a new conduct software. Keeping in mind, we're still underneath Sheridan software for that type of thing, Guardian training, as well as our National Association for Behavioral Intervention and Threat Assessment, those types of training. So there's a lot of professional development in addition to our professional development weeks that we want to make sure is continuous, actually. And I feel good with the amount that has been done in this past year and continue to do that as we're moving forward. The nursing faculty at this point, yesterday and today, the simulation of how they're going through their training for that. If you remember, that was based on the WIP too. Anywhere from turning on, how do you turn it on, to the in-depth training. There'll be a 2-day training, that today is the day of some of that training also. So overall, a lot of the things is really in anticipation of moving forward with accreditation and trying to get those pieces, starting to collect those pieces prior to them being needed for us to respond to. Any questions?
Questions for Dr. Sprigg? Yes, sir.
I've heard wonderful things about Caleb Elton's literature appreciation class from members of the community. So
Excellent.
thank you for offering that. I hope we see more of those.
Yeah, that's definitely our hope, is to really, as I said, Marty does well in regards to the technical, that's his background and everything. But whenever we put that grant in, it was really to push out that community ed, to start bringing more people in different realms also. I mean, we, of course, have our writing clubs and organizations within the college. So we're hoping to be pipelines for every aspect of the institution.
Trustee Palmer.
In Dr. Spriggs, I really appreciate hearing about the professional development and how it's spread throughout the college and individuals are doing that. I think for an educational institution, it's vital that we continue to provide that ongoing and updated resource to our staff, our administration, all of our employees. And I know this is a term that's overused, but you, sir, are a heavy lift accreditation, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing.
Thanks. I think we got a good plan. We got people involved, and as people become more educated, then it is a little more interesting and exciting for people. So our grit team has actually really taken on an active role in looking at some of those eligibility requirements, and they're learning a lot, and that's the key. It's always the key is for them to be able to speak to others and then try to get other people involved. So.
I have a couple of things. You talked about activities in terms of what we provide for a college. Maybe we do and maybe we don't. And maybe other colleges do this, maybe they don't. But, like cornhole is a big activity now within the college, philosophy. Have we ever thought about hosting a cornhole tournament and inviting other colleges? I mean, would be a competition only within the cornhole, and it would be kind of an intramural thing. And then I would tag onto that pickleball, and pickleball is big. And so would we be able to host a pickleball tournament for other junior colleges and for our students in terms of going down the road? And then my other one is, I know we have some retiring professors, and I'm not sure how we honor the retiring professors. Do we do a luncheon for them, or do we do a little celebration for them? And do we honor them? And I don't remember. Do we honor them that night of graduation? Okay, so those are my questions.
Yeah.
Let's start with pickleball and cornhole, which obviously for pickleball, you gotta have a facility. I'm not sure we want to play it in the Pronghorn Center. We've been down that road on what it does before, but I think it'd be fine. Maybe you just call it rec center.
Yeah, I think in order to host, actually, it will take a lot of logistics in order to do so. I think that where we're at, honestly, is really just building our students, more student involvement here first before, bringing other people on. I think that cohesion and our students' involvement, and as I mentioned before, of getting a more physical activity, let's get them there first. And then I think, of course, as we expand in multiple zones, even with gaming and everything else as we're moving forward, that will be something as we're moving forward. But right now, the focus is really, let's get them out of the residence halls. Let's get them back on campus once they leave as commuters and everything, and get them excited about it before we have other people coming in and taking over where we're still trying to bring our own on. But that is definitely the type of activity, the new type of games where it's always constantly, you can still participate in multiple venues of it as to what we actually need to do. And we are going through a process of really, within student affairs, examining what that structure is going to be in order to have more focus on those things.
I'll let you speak to honoring our retiring.
Sure, Chair McGrath, Trustee Williams, Mr. Gunderson is retiring. We did invite him to the board meeting today. Unfortunately, he was not available today. We will recognize him absolutely at commencement, and then we also will recognize him at our last faculty and staff meeting of the year. So we absolutely recognize those retirees. They're important to who we are as an institution. We'll miss him. He's a phenomenal instructor.
Thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Spriggs? Dr. Spriggs, thank you for all you do and all your work and getting us involved as we are.
Thank you.
On to facilities update. Our new facilities director, or newer, Marty Wolf.
Good afternoon. I've broken down some facilities updates with news, projects, and kind of broken it out into subcategories. So right now we have 2 maintenance department personnel full-time, 9 full-time custodial staff members, 2 full-time grounds department staff members, 1 full-time events coordinator, 2 part-time staff members, and 1 student employee. Jolene has coordinated 645 events since November, including 22 external events. 87 of those events required all staff setups and teardowns. This month, we're hosting MSHA training, roughly 1,400 people we'll see through the doors this month. And the rest of the month, we have 3 large events on the Pronghorn Court floor requiring large setups and teardowns. And of course, we're prepping for graduation next month. Grounds department has used 7,840 pounds of salt as of today. Spring dethatching is complete. By the end of this week, 1,000 pounds of fertilizer will be applied across campus. We're currently investigating different pre-emergent programs for all campus planners to reduce weed growth. We've developed various service projects for camporee volunteers we'll get coming up here at the end of the summer. Material procurement started in March of 24. We've got about 1,500 bulbs stored on site. We've got requests for proposals for replacement of trees. Custodial department, they clean roughly 400,000 square feet of space every week. We have 2 full-time new hires with a projected start date of 4/22/24. The custodial team coordinates with the event manager to provide assistance for all 645 of those events or meetings that GCCD has hosted since November of 23, sorry. We've established a preventive maintenance program for all cleaning machines. We now have SDS sheets that are digitized and posted throughout campus utilizing a QR code platform. We've got daily reports on common area maintenance issues get procured by our first responder custodial teams in the common areas. They make it to the custodial supervisor, and then the custodial supervisor generates reactive maintenance work order requests. Maintenance department news, all exterior walkway and parking lot lighting has now been retrofitted to LED. We've installed motor meters on applicable compressors to check for leaks. We've replaced failed VFDs for the exhaust fans in the welding lab. We replaced a failed motor and VFD for the makeup air unit in welding lab. We've provided 10-hour OSHA training to all full-time facility staff members through Cintas. That includes lockout tagout training, safe handling of hazardous materials. And we also provided aerial training to all applicable facility staff members, again through Cintas. We've developed a work order standard operating procedure with an emphasis on safety, security, and comfort. We've received 972 total work orders since November 24, whether that was self-generated or generated by outside staff members. We've developed an all-campus closed-loop water treatment program, including scheduled testing throughout the year. We've retrofitted all common area lobbies, except I Hall, it's still in progress. The entryways, washrooms, and lobbies with LED fixtures. We've developed a building standard lighting, color, temperature, and plumbing fixture schedule. It'll help keep parts on the shelf. We have one universal toilet for every building was kind of different for quite a while. Upcoming projects, we've received, reviewed, and accepted a quote for the Rodeo Arena light fixture replacement. That work is scheduled for May 13th. We've received some quotes for the tech center lighting and diesel lab, welding lab, machine lab. Those quotes are still under review. projected completion summer of 24. We will be using a few different contractors, given the timeline and the scope of the work. We've got phase one, potentially, of the I-Hall Boiler Room project for the summer. Construction documents have been drafted. Bids will be due April 30th, 24. Anticipated completion is the last week of July 2024. Potential tech flex space update. This would include carpeting, updating the audio-visual side of the technology, lighting, window coverings, and possible resheathing of the divider walls. And in that project includes this room that we're sitting in right now, and furniture. Pronghorn Center, second floor storage space, potential remodel. This space would potentially get renovated to home energy city voices and provide storage elsewhere for the event equipment. And Brightly phase two of our work order platform, that was phase one. Phase two is procurement of a digital maintenance program, preventative maintenance program. So included in that program is a site assessment by a third party. The site assessment would document a current list of all assets and equipment and provide an asset forecast. The asset forecast would help with future budgeting for repair and replacement. I've been coordinating with my counterpart at Campbell County for staining the bridge, which is projected to be completed next month. But before we do that, we have approved a lighting project. So the lights will get stripped starting next week, according to the contractor. And we also will look to move into the main building parking lot, working with Campbell County on that. There's some crack repairs and drainage that needs repaired, replaced. That's about all I have. Any questions?
Is that all? I'm exhausted.
I would say, yeah,
Before.
let me start with this. First off, it seems to be a very smooth and wonderful transition from obviously Mark, who spent a lot of years here, into you. So I thank you and congratulate you on that. You've done a woman's job. I mean, it's fantastic. I think you said 400,000 square feet that you cleaned. Was that the number I heard?
Yep.
Somewhere. I mean, so to think about that, I mean, that is a tremendous job, and the campus always looks impeccable. So thank you for that. At least for me, and I think our board, thank you for all you and your entire team of work for what you guys do.
Thank you.
Yeah. I would open it up for any other questions or comments. Trustee Plum.
Mr. Chair, Director Wolf, I was pleased to hear that you say you're working with Campbell County. That was one of the questions I had was, are we continuing to work because there's those maintenance reserve funds that the county has, and it sounds like that's exactly what you're using probably for the parking lot and maybe for the staining of the bridge, as well as maybe potential some other facilities as well. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
And we've been coordinating for budgeting for next year on different projects. So
Excellent.
Now, when you say you're gonna strip the lights from the bridge, that means we are gonna be lightless? Or are we gonna replace them?
So we're currently lightless with the LED strip lighting that's on there. It's not functioning currently. So we're going to keep the housing, but replace all the gel tube lighting. So I'm hoping to go live the first week of June. It's kind of tight, but I think we can do it.
President Oberlin has something.
Yeah, Chair McGrath, trustees, we have some very generous community members who have donated to relight the bridge. And so we're not ready to reveal those names, but on June 1st, when we have a lighting ceremony, we'll be happy to recognize those donors who have provided donations to the foundation for that specific project. So we're very excited.
It'll be about 9:30 at night.
It'll be a great celebration.
It'll be exciting.
Those lights are programmable. We'll be able to change the colors so we can celebrate October Breast Cancer Awareness Month, November, when the lights were green for veterans. When our pronghorns win at home or away, we can change the bridge lighting to show them, and lots of other things, Christmas lights. So I'm very happy that we were able to find and procure some funding to relight that gift to our community.
And then the other thing, I really appreciate you replacing the trees. And is there other places on our campus where we need trees? I was thinking kind of like down along Donkey Creek. Should we have trees along there? And as I look around the camp, we got a beautiful campus, and thank you for all you guys do. But as I look around, being kind of ecologist to some degree, I feel that there's places where we need trees. And that only does our environment better. You know, we gotta be an environmentalist. So And I know we got deer problems. Ten Sleep's got grizzly bear problems. We don't have that. But anyway, that's just a thought and an observation. And the trees that we have are just fantastic trees. You know, when these all leaf out, it's a beautiful campus now, but these trees really make it. But is there a place we need more trees?
I think that's open for discussion. Oh, tell me where to plant them, we'll plant them.
Find the right kind that live and survive. for sure.
Any other questions for Marty?
Chair McGrath,
Yes.
might I ask Marty to give a very high level overview of the phase one, because we're going to be asking for that spending authority for that project. This is a two-phase project from some construction and different things that have happened in IHall. So Marty, could you give just a real high overview of that phase one IHall project that we would like to have completed by the end of July? So when we get to that agenda item, the trustees are aware.
So IHall has the hot water heating system tied into the domestic hot. And anytime we have to service the hot water heat, it knocks out the domestic hot, which in turn takes out the restaurant. And we've had to do that twice over the winter. We've projected, we have to make some other repairs in there, but given material lead times, we wouldn't be able to do it this year, but we may be able to uncouple that system this summer and separate those systems and replace the day tanks with gas-fired hot water heaters, rather than rely on the failing boilers that are in there. Out of the 3, we're down to 2 right now. So that would reduce the load on the boilers, reduce the weight on the flooring that's in there right now, and get us through the winter and give us time to get our ducks in a row with construction documents and go out to bid to replace the boilers and do the flooring for next year. So I project the cost to come in well under what I'm asking by about 20%. So those bids will be received by April 30th. We'll have them reviewed. Everyone can be looped in. I'm not sure what that process looks like when they come in, but generally we'll score them based on cost, availability, timeline, and work with the engineers that we've hired to do the job.
Excellent.
So it's really not a huge deal, but it's great to have Jake Strickling with the state to help us navigate some of the different processes through it.
So the board members just know that that's coming up here in the new business as the agenda item that we added there. Any other questions for Marty?
For expenditure in the next fiscal year.
This fiscal year, right? Or is it next fiscal?
The boiler.
We would likely award the bid before July. Because material is about 8 to 10 weeks out in order for that to come in and give about 2 weeks to do the job. We need to be done before the end of July, before the restaurant's up and running.
So it'd be approval this fiscal year, but expend next fiscal year?
Cash outlay would be next fiscal year, but we'd record the purchase order expense this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Marty? Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Nice things you didn't have power today.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm excited. Moving on to old business. Second reading of policy 3000.34 incident management. Dr. Oberlander.
Chair McGrath, trustees, this is the second and final reading of incident management policy 3000.34. This is the policy that dictates that we will stand up an incident management plan. Trustee Wasserberger had asked if we would add the Center for Disease Control and Wyoming Health. I did not add that. We can, but I do want to point out that we have in the procedure, which is the incident management plan, that we will work with Gillette Police Department, Campbell County Fire, Campbell County Sheriff, Wyoming State Police, City of Gillette, et cetera, and other local and state emergency public safety agencies as deemed necessary. That's in the procedure. We can certainly add that identical, if you'd rather, that identical language in this policy as well. At your pleasure, trustees.
I would defer to Trustee Wasserberger. Any thoughts on that?
I'm reviewing this again, 1 moment, please. So I guess to me, it's a kind of a, I really appreciate the detail being in the policy and so, or in the procedure. So I think that that's really crucial, obviously. I kind of like the all or none approach. I mean, we have some listed, but then there's even further detail in the procedure. So it's a little bit of a disconnect for me, but I'm at the pleasure actually of leadership. I mean, the policy, we set policies, so I guess I should say to the trustees. It's really up to you. It was just, I don't know. I mean,
I could go either way.
I can too, and I'm fine to leave it the way that it is.
I'm fine with it being in procedure.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the second reading of Incident Management Board Policy Series 3000.34 as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by trustee Palmer and seconded by trustee Anderson to approve the second and final reading of policy 3000.34 incident management as presented. Further discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right. Second reading. Oh, sorry, I was closing that out on my computer. It's not the right one. Second reading for policy 4000.12 corrective action, Dr. Oberland.
Chairman Rath, trustees, this is the second and final reading of board policy 4000.12 corrective action. This is an employee policy. It gives our supervisors the go ahead and permission to take employees as needed through a progressive disciplinary process. Oftentimes, the progressive disciplinary process is just corrective action for employees. And sometimes it's just one conversation. Sometimes it's all the way up to and including a performance improvement plan. Our director of HR, Human Resources, has developed that procedure and certainly is in the process of training supervisors as they go through that process. This is the policy to support the procedure.
I move to approve policy 4000.12 corrective action as presented.
Second.
Williams. Trustee Anderson moved and trustee Williams seconded to approve the second and final reading of policy 4000.12 corrective action as presented. Any further discussion? Go ahead. One quick question. I don't believe, were there any changes from the first reading? Okay, thank you. Trustee Paul.
Mr. Chair, just a question. Dr. Spriggs had mentioned in his report about the faculty handbook. And I guess I just asked the question, so I get a little confused and I apologize because we use the term in this policy of employees, and I presume that that's everybody on the campus. That's faculty, that's staff, that's administration, that's everybody. And so my question is this corrective action policy also going to be as part of the procedure in the faculty handbook process as well?
Chair McGrath, trustee Palmer, it is in the faculty handbook, and the faculty handbook is currently posted up on the bridge for our faculty to review, as is the employee handbook. Again, that's a living, breathing document, so as policies change, as procedures change, those documents get updated. But yes, it is important.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Sure. So for further clarification of that, because I had that pop through my mind when Dr. Spriggs was giving his report. So the faculty handbook is already I mean, I know it's in place. It's an active document, ever changing as policies go, but it's not in draft form. This is a live and breathing document already.
Chair McGrath, trustee Wasserberger, it is a live document. Now, the academic deans are working on, and please, Dr. Spriggs, correct me if I'm wrong, they're working on the calculation of lab hours.
Yes.
So what is the equivalent of 2 hours to a lab hour to a credit hour? So that is in progress right now as they approve that and finalize that. But it is up on the bridge for our faculty to review. And the faculty senate has gone through that. We reviewed that with them. We've got page by page by page, section by section. Have changed a few things, have updated a few things based on their recommendation.
Thank you.
Any other further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of policy 4000.12, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right. The Northern Wyoming Community College District Athletic Scholarship Payment Approval. Vice President Larson.
Chair McGrath and trustees. When we paid scholarships last year, the faculty were still being paid by NWCCD. So of course they kept the tuition as an offset to their Salaries and benefits expense. This year I made some incorrect assumptions and wrongly determined that Sheridan would be keeping the money again. I should have just followed up with my accounting staff before bringing it to you because they were actually aware we would be getting the full amount back. So how it works is the student accounts need to be recorded as being whole before Sheridan says that tuition is final and they've received everything they need to receive. So we pay Sheridan for our portion of the student scholarships. And then later when Sheridan sends the full tuition over, the 300,000 that I was requesting last time will come back to us, the full amount. So I apologize for that misunderstanding. From a cash perspective, this is a wash and therefore I'm withdrawing my request for approval. I have talked with our auditor and she agreed there'd be no reason to have, even though it's a significant payout, since we'll be getting it all back, there's no reason to have the board approve. But so I'm withdrawing my request for approval. I apologize again for the confusion and I appreciate the questions that the board had to help clarify the situation.
Any questions for Vice President Larson?
So just, I guess, a point of order, first of all, Mr. Chairman, I looked and I went back in the minutes. We probably should have taken this item off the table before we had the discussion. Because we tabled it at the last, and to have the discussion, we probably should have taken it off the table first. It's a parliamentary, it's just a parliamentary, so just FYI. I guess the only question I would have for our Vice President is, will the transition of outgoing funds and incoming funds all take place yet within this fiscal year?
It depends. Chair McGrath and Trustee Palmer, it depends. We could get most of it back by the end of June. Sometimes they withhold a certain percentage. Their allowance for doubtful accounts is 10%. So we definitely won't get that piece back. But in terms of the full 381,000, we'll probably receive slightly over $1 million in tuition payment before the end of June. And so.
I just want to make sure that, again, and I know you've.
So while you're pondering that, okay, in order to adhere to the Parliament of June, I would request a motion to take this off the table to continue discussion, or?
I think by putting it on we had moved to delay further discussion until this meeting. So by putting it on the agenda, I think it reopened it. The agenda itself is a.
I'll defer to Trustee E. I just.
But we could
Legal
move
counsel
to
Dave,
table
any thoughts
this.
on this?
We could move to table this for action indefinitely, which kills it.
I guess I would ask, well.
Legal counsel, Mr. Horgan, do you have any thoughts on this?
I was of a mind with Trustee Palmer, but I can't say that Trustee Gee's method is feasible.
What is the action that you want?
Well, I think number one, for the discussion, we should take it off the table. And if, Mr. Chair, if I am understanding Vice President Larson, I think we have to not let it just die. I think we have to take an action to remove it from consideration. Because it was an actionable item on our agenda.
Okay, then I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna request a motion to remove this from the table.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Palmer and a second by Trustee Anderson to remove the athletic scholarship payment approval from table from last meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, now for discussion on this, your thought is we need a motion to actually kill it. Lack of a better word. To remove it.
Or no second, it dies.
Yeah,
So-
either way.
That's true.
Yeah, the only question I had is, and you talked, if I may, Mr. Chair, Vice President, you talked to the auditors. I just don't want to make sure that at the end of the fiscal year, we're not we received part of the funding, but they withheld 10% of this particular amount.
Correct.
And if you're not concerned, and I guess then I'm.
Chair McGrath and trustee Palmer, we actually have that reserve, that 10% on our balance sheet as well. So we fully expect that we won't receive that piece of it. And as student payments dribble in throughout the year, they keep them and give them to us when they make the big. So.
Okay, so we can go about this one of two ways. I can request a motion, and if it doesn't have a second, if it has a second, then it's gonna have to be voted on, just so we're all understanding. Hey, let's entertain a motion.
Option A. I will make a motion to. I'm sorry, what?
To approve.
To remove, to remove,
Or no, to approve.
to approve. Okay, well, remove and approve and lip language looks really familiar or really closely related. To approve the NWCCD athletic scholarship payment.
Is there a second?
It's dying for lack of a
It's dying for a lack of a second. Thank you. Vice President Larson, thank you very much. Thanks for your research on this. Appreciate what you're doing. Appreciate you.
You're very patient with me, Mr. Chair.
I would
Thank
rather
you
be
for
right
that.
than wrong. Thank you. New business, approval of the board handbook, the board governance committee. One moment, please. I guess I would defer to the board governance committee. Trustee Palmer, are you on the board governance? I'm not. Who's on it?
So we had discussed this not being a document that the board necessarily approves, but that it's present and evolving. Last meeting we had, I don't know if administration wanted us to like take action to approve it.
I believe Chair McGrath felt that probably needed an approval from the board to move this forward, to approve the document of the board handbook.
It's not a bylaw. It's more like guidance.
Resource. Mr. Chair, first of all, I'd like to express my extreme gratitude to the committee. It's a lot of work. Really, thank you. You guys have done a great job. I just had a couple of comments. And I guess my question back to Trustee Gee and the President would be, Mr. Chair, is this not unlike the employee handbook or the student handbook or the faculty handbook? It's a live document. It's something that I think is going to be very beneficial to all of us as trustees, as well as individuals in the community that may consider that they want to be a trustee, along with our advisory board members. I don't have any reservations about approving it. One of the comments I was going to ask for is on the footer on the page is, can we have an adoption and an approved by or an adoption by date? Because this is a live document, there's going to be pages that are going to come in and out. One of which is the new page about who's on the committees. That will change. And yet, but if we have that, then we as trustees know which document we're looking at. And what we're doing. And I guess as far as the modifications that may be made, whether or not those just want to go on the consent agenda for future meetings once we approve this document. But I guess I would like to honor the work that was done by the committee, done by staff, and formally recognize this document. I think they did a wonderful job.
Chair Palmer, thank you for a sentiment on that. I concur. Trustee.
Thank you for the kind words, and administration did a lot of work in putting it together, so thank you. The difference between us and employees is we are an elected body, and so if we approve it, I'm concerned it becomes a form of board policy. And I think it's more, that's a little technical, but I think it's more proper for it to be a document that we support as education and guidance, as opposed to something that we are quasi binding an elected body to
our role is governed by in my opinion, is governed by bylaws and statute, and I think those are the documents that. So if we wanted to, provide a vote of support for this document, I think that'd be more appropriate than approving it in a policy framework. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I guess maybe along those lines then, trustee Gee, would you be more, I guess, acceptable to ratification?
Yes, I would. I think that, although it's a small distinction, I think it makes sense.
And trustee Westbrook.
A comment, although it may be unnecessary, but for the audience and for the record, I share the sentiments about the great amount of detail that was done. I love that it provides us with a point of history from the inception of our college vote and where we literally began as in a sidebar. I love the fact that it has the statutory language, then those hyperlinks. And yes, I did go out and read them. As I and re-familiarize myself with them. But for the audience, an incredible amount of detail has been given. And then kudos to the rest of my trustees, because as we read through this, it was like a rewind of the board of education that we all committed ourselves to last year. And it was a reiteration of what our role and our purpose is. And I think it's really profound because it is laying the foundation, I think, for who we are and where we want to go. And so, I mean, it almost passed the tissues over it, but it really, it was it's a tremendous accomplishment and work well done by everyone. So thank you, Mr. Former Chair Palmer, for letting us having us do the education, because that moved forward into this document. And I think that inspires us to keep moving forward in all these different directions. So good job.
Yes, thank you very much. And I obviously echo those sentiments. I mean, and for those in the audience, it's 37 pages of guidance and education. And so for those that may choose to run this year or run in 2026 or 28, I mean, it's a document that certainly can be utilized by the college and everybody going through.
Yeah, and any candidates who are interested in board work, I think it's very representative, but especially for us, because it very much details how we should conduct ourselves.
Agreed. So having said that, then instead of a motion to approve the handbook, I would accept a motion to ratify the board handbook.
I would.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, thank you. So it has been moved by trustee Anderson and seconded by trustee Wassenberger to ratify the board handbook. Yes, I would say with one, to add the dates at the bottom of the pages, at the footers of the pages. Are you willing to modify your second? Or you, yes.
Yes.
Your move, excuse me, and your second.
Amend my motion to.
Thank you. So it's been moved by trustee Anderson, seconded by trustee Wassenberger to ratify the board handbook with the dates at the footers. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Awesome. Motion carries. Okay, I just wanted to touch real quick on the president's evaluation, and so that everybody in the board knows where we're going with this. So we made the decision last year, just to remind everybody on the board, we wanted to do the president's evaluation in the spring, right prior to the board, the budget process, or, approving the budget, so that if there were any adjustments or anything like that. So I have started that process with ACCT. You will be getting some communication from them. We are modifying it a little bit. My discretion, I guess, but you will be getting the communication from them, and so that we can have this done along with the timeline to have it done in time for our budget approval and then next year it'll be a full year. So it's a little short because we're only about 7-8 months, eight months, I think, from last evaluation, and now we'll be going forward, be a full year. questions on that or thoughts? Okay. Advice, yes, ma'am.
So, for the record, the president's evaluation will occur before, by the end of this fiscal year. Is that what I'm
That is
hearing?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, I should have had my email up because then I could quickly go to for those hanging out, you've been here a long time. I will give you the time frame, and I should have had that up. So it will begin that process. Today, we're gonna, move forward, and then on 5/15, all the emails will be provided. They'll send out the evaluation by 6/7. They'll prepare a summary report, and by 6/9, provide the summary report so that we can then discuss it at our June board meeting. My apologies for not having that ready. Questions on that? Okay. Advisory Board bylaws update, Dr. Overland.
Mr. Durgan, you may have to jump in and help with this, but you have presented before you some changes that the Gillette College Advisory Board made to their bylaws. I think most of it is procedural. So under section 1 purpose, they've expanded their nurtures relationships with proper partners, former advisory boards members, former boards and trustees, foundation board members. On page 2, under regular meetings, the advisory board chair designee will attend the monthly board of trustee meeting. So not locking it in just to the chair. On page, well, the numbers are different. On page 4, they've removed section 10 in its entirety. Under section 12, they've removed starting from new members will participate in board orientation. That has been removed as a requirement. And they've removed the immediate past chair from officers on page 6. Page 7, because now we have support from Dr. Spriggs's assistant, the secretary will review rather than record. So we have professional staff keeping minutes for that group. And then page 8, the waiver of notice, they're asking if that can be removed. And I can't remember why they put this in. It may have been a recommendation by Frank Stevens. I just don't remember why that. Scott, is there anything that I have missed that I went over that really quickly? And Dr. Spriggs, of course, has been in those meetings and can respond as well.
The last one that we want to remove, I want people to read that 3 or 4 times, because you'll never figure it out.
If I recall, I want to say Frank Stevens asked for that to be in when he reviewed. I don't remember, but Dr. Spriggs, do you?
Yeah, I can't recall. Well, speaking with Angie and Jerry, I guess that was the question, like, what was the?
Why is it why was
what
the
was
purpose?
of it? Yeah.
Trustee Heath, you had a.
Oh, I'm
It was a corporate.
speculating that
Okay.
it was, how is the advisory, it's just a board that's made up of people we appoint, so they're an arm of us, right?
That's correct. That's correct. The board actually doesn't appoint, they ratify the membership similar to the foundation. So they're not elected officials, they don't have fiduciary responsibility.
I just have a question.
Trustee Heath.
Thank you. I appreciate all the changes on the secretary piece. I understand they're reviewing. I think a secretary still would have the duty of ensuring it's recorded, even if they're not the ones doing it, so. And ensure minutes are taken. And I think that is the point of.
Could you add, I'm sorry, Chair McGrath, Trustee Gee, could you add it into actions of the advisory board to ensure that they're recorded and that the record is distributed to the general membership? Could you add it in
So
there?
this is describing the duties of the secretary of the board.
Right.
And so I think that's why it's important in this paragraph to cause the secretary to ensure that the minutes are being taken,
Yeah, that they're to ensure the
similar to how we
recording.
do. Right, you're not,
Yeah, I was just wondering for ease, if you could just add it right in there.
yeah. I think it needs to fall under the duty of the office.
So something like the secretary will ensure the action of the advisory board are recorded and distributed to general membership?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Mr. Durgan, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, Mr. Chair, trustees, why don't we just leave it the way it is? It's no different than what we as the board require of our, even though Ms. Henning is kind enough to draft the minutes for us. Our secretary does the same
It can be
thing.
delegated.
Yeah, I think we just leave it at, not try to wordsmith it out. I just unstrike the strike, I guess.
So I would move to, are we ratifying?
We are ratifying.
Chair McGrath.
Okay. I mean, I guess technically I really need to take a motion before the discussion, so I'm gonna start here if you're gonna do that.
Yeah, we can amend it if needed. I would move to ratify this as proposed, accepting of the change in section 7.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved by trustee Yee and seconded by trustee Palmer to ratify the advisory board bylaws
And
with the
just to
changes to
clarify,
section 7.
Article 4 would be stricken.
With Article 4 strict. Changes to section 7. Discussion. Trustee Anderson.
In the earlier section, which Article 2, when you remove section 10, the other article or the other sections need to be renumbered. Yes. To sections 11 and 12, 11, 12, 13, and 14, it needs to be 10, 11, 12, and 13.
I accept that friendly amendment.
And Mr. Chairman, just one quick question is, has our legal counsel reviewed this document as well?
Legal counsel Horning? No.
Which would it be the pleasure for the board of trustees that we, and for the benefit of the advisory board that we have legal counsel just review it? I think they have in the past. I don't know.
They have. Chair McGrath, I would just defer to Chair Durgan. Do you want to take these changes back to the advisory board before this body ratifies it? For their final, to make sure the advisory board's okay with those changes?
I guess as far as I'm concerned, the changes are very minor. So I don't think it's fair enough to do it.
Any other discussion? Okay.
Can I ask, acting chair Durgan, so with section 10 being removed, is there any stipulation then about participation and commitment to that advisory board since the requirements for attendance are being removed?
Josh.
Yes, please.
So what we thought about is that there's other ways to deal with somebody that's not attending. They're just not participating. So there's a lot of other ways to deal with that. And if attendance is just one thing of it, we can deal with it. The problem is that we have a lot of working people that sometimes cannot make it, and that's okay. So we don't want to make that something that we have to deal with just because somebody had something, on their plate. But if there's a continued attendance problem, we can deal with that other way.
So my question, Vice Chair Durgan, you guys went over this and approved it from your advisory board. This is just my thought. I don't want to micromanage a document that you guys brought forward and thought it worked well for your these minor changes, which I think are fine. That's my thought. So I totally agree with that. Yes, sir.
I just want this clear for Ellie and myself, way out there for me to try to taking up notes of what we've admitted and not admitted. So make your motion, please.
Yes, sir. So I will repeat the motion if we are ready. Trustee Gee moved and trustee Palmer seconded to ratify the advisory board bylaw update, removing section 7. No, excuse me, modifying, section 7 and removing article 4.
So removing the change.
Section 7 of Article 3.
In section 7 of Article 3, thank you.
Oh, excuse me, Article 4.
Article 4, section 7, article 4, removing the stricken section. That's article 3.
Article 3, thank you. Removing the change in section 7 of Article 3 and striking Article 4 and renumbering as appropriate.
Ellie, did you get all that?
It's recorded, so I can go back
She'll
later.
play it back and laugh. She'll be amused.
Any further
It's not
discussion?
recorded for me.
And I would just offer a friendly amendment to, with a review by legal counsel.
Excellent. Friendly review with a friendly amendment with review by legal counsel.
Agreed.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. All right, ratification. Committee reports.
There are no committee reports.
There
this week.
are no committee reports. Moving on to public comment. I do believe we do have one public comment. Or one person signed up for public comment. Yes, sir. Please step to the microphone. Doug Stoffer, correct?
My background's manufacturing
Okay,
and is this working?
it is.
Okay.
If you wouldn't mind stating your name just one more time.
Oh, Doug Stauffer.
Thank you.
So I feel like a fish out of water here and I'm more nervous than a cricket in the house.
Okay.
So,
Pretty laid back. Don't worry, pretty laid back.
First, I'd just like to say thank you to the trustees and everyone here for all the work they do. Kind of like your car, you know, all those things are in there going around and I doubt if any of you opened your hood this morning and you got in your car, you know, to make sure everything looks good in there. And so from a resident of Gillette and just everybody lives their lives, works their jobs, as Mr. Lasko was saying. So my question, I have a question. A statement, it says, you don't know what you don't know. So that's why I'm here. And you hear this, you hear that, you read things in the paper, I mean, this is like coming to the Supreme Court in my mind. If I can't get the answer here, I think I'm out of luck. Anyway, Dr. Spriggs, yeah, mentioned about putting students first and that's the whole direction of the college. And my question is, so I'm aware of some students that would like to have classes, but are unable to because of the either how they're presented or the time frame of it. And I'm not sure the protocol here, so pardon me if I'm just yeah, I just don't know what I'm
You're doing great.
exactly. But so my wife teaches here. She is in the teacher education program. And I guess from my understanding that the closing of the enrollment and doctors, they're trying to Anyway, so the closing of enrollment is closing sooner than I guess it, normally it was open right up until the time that the class would start. And so she only has like 3 students at this point, and I think the enrollment's gonna be closing soon. I'm not sure Dr. Sprigg will know exactly. She don't know I'm here. And anyway, for my own benefit, this can be a kind of a highly emotional charged thing. So, she loves her job, and I guess it's my understanding that if there's not more than 10 students, that the classes will not run. If the classes will not run, then she won't have a job, is my understanding. I'm here because I love my wife. And there's, I don't want to cause any problems, but let me use this analogy. If I could, if you're going down the highway and you're behind an 18-wheeler and you see some of the brakes go bad on those or whatever, and you see smoke coming out of that thing, aren't you going to try and warn the driver, say, hey, you got something better, something's not right with your rig. And so, Mike, I'm just saying, I think something's not right with the rig. And so, I just had a couple notes here. Okay, so it was, I think, Dr. Sprigg says we want to be as truthful as possible. And so, at one point she had, if I'm not mistaken, this could be verified. A lot of times she tells me about all this stuff and it's like, oh, that's great, dear, whatever. And I don't, I hear it, but I don't. And so at one point she had 178, I think, students. And then now currently she has, I think, 23. And now she has 3 signed up. And part of my understanding is that the classes are being run Flex, online, and live. But the way they're listed this always gets me messed up because I guess it would be the spring classes. Have to be in person or Zoom Flex, I believe, at the actual time. So if a class is scheduled for 2 o'clock or whatever in the afternoon, that person has to, even though they're not in the classroom, they have to Zoom in. This is my understanding now. Again, that's why I'm here. I want to try and figure this out. So a lot of her students, she's in the teacher, like I said, teacher education program, I think. And I mentioned that there's a teacher shortage. Campbell County School District she could rattle off all this. It's like nobody's business, but they have quite a few people with, I think they call them emergency licenses or whatever that are there instructing because they just don't have enough teachers. So there's a demand for it. And so because some of the people that would like to get education courses are paraprofessionals or are helping in the schools already. So they're not available there is, Mr. Lasko said, they're working. They're not available to come to class during a normal time. And so when COVID came, which was, everybody knows about that. She went to all online classes and it grew. The program grew. I don't have all the statistics, but it grew a lot because now prospective students have access to these classes. And so you can get more, I mean, that's the goal, I would think. That was my other deal here. Desired outcome. You have to look at desired outcome, even in manufacturing, if you're building a widget or doing whatever, that's your desired outcome. So you want to direct your process, okay, to attain that goal. It's not, you know, it's not rocket science. So, and I know, or I've understood that Dr. Spriggs, he would like to change the culture of the school or whatever, and so that's, I suppose, okay. And with ideas have consequences. When you have an idea and you develop it, there's going to be, I mean, it could be a good consequence or it could be a bad consequence. I mean, it's just like somebody's, you know, if they're going to go into a bank and hold a bank, I mean, they have a desired outcome. They want to collect, you know, money, and it's not going to be a good outcome for them because they're going about it in the wrong way. There's proper ways to get money. Working is one of the main ways. But anyway, so I guess on behalf of my wife, like I say, and it's my understanding that the board meeting is just for that the faculty can attend, but I don't know if they're, and President Oberlander, maybe you could, I mean, clarify that or whatever. And so there seems to be a lot of confusion with policy. So I guess, I mean, she's gonna have to look elsewhere if I mean, she is looking elsewhere. Because it's like, we love it here. We gotten used to the Wyoming weather whiplash where you can blow snow in the morning and mow the grass in the afternoon. And so, and when we came here, like I said, I'm from manufacturing. I did CNC programming and ran CNC, and this would be woodworking. And so I helped when Ian Scott was first over at Area 59. I helped him out, just volunteered doing some setups on planing the woodworking equipment and the CNC routers. And so I'm looking to retire, hopefully not too far down the road, and that would be a place where maybe I could share some of my experiences or whatever.
So if I may, just a time limit. So Doug, first off, I would say thank you very much for your willingness to come and speak today. I can't speak on behalf of the board. I can speak on behalf of the board, but I can't speak on behalf of the administration. I think what I would tell you, the enrollment process and the way the classes are done, that's not done through the board. That's done through the administration, the registrar, and the number of classes. So certainly I would tell you, either yourself or your wife, as you had mentioned, that obviously if that's a topic, then I think that's where she needs to go, is to the administration. And as to the where, the why, and the how that they schedule that, that's not necessarily where this board goes. We're here to make and create and handle policy and that thing. So From that aspect, I very much appreciate your willingness to come here and speak to us, and certainly we'll discuss it and then go from there.
Okay, so I guess if, is my understanding correct, then I mean, there is no guarantees in life. And so looking down the road, if and I didn't, you know, who would I see? I mean, Dr. Spriggs or
Yeah, I would certainly start with Dr. Spriggs and then, or her dean.
Dean Foshbaugh?
Dean Foshbaugh, start there and.
Yeah, sorry.
And work from there, because I think that's the proper chain of command, from our perspective. And that's, I'm not trying to push you down the road, but I think that's right spot for you to start.
Okay.
And we certainly appreciate you and your wife and being a part of this community, and don't want to lose you, but I can't. There's not enough kids taking a class, then that's a decision for the administration, so.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Could I?
Tell you what, if you hang on for maybe after the meeting, maybe you can schedule a time to come in and meet with them.
Okay.
All right.
That would be.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Point of order. Sorry. I think we have an additional new item to
We-
discuss.
We do. You are correct, and I
do,
missed
thank
it.
you.
Thank you for that. It was now that you say that, I remember adding it. It was item E. It was item E, so those here, I apologize. We're gonna go back to item E of new business, which was the spending authority of up to $100,000.
Yeah, for phase one project in the rest, in the I hall. Instructional hall.
Phase one of I Hall. Any further on that, Dr. Overlander, you'd like to elaborate?
Chair McGrath, thank you, and thank you.
Thank
Trustee
you,
Palmer.
Trustee Palmer.
I clearly had it written down. This was the project that Facilities Director Wolf talked about, phase one of the I hall boiler project room. Bids are going to go out. We want to keep that project online. We'll have bids back for your next meeting, so we'd like spending authority up to 110,000.
Excellent. Is it 110 or 100? Okay, I wrote 100. Is it 110?
Chair McGrath, he initially proposed to us, the maximum amount would be 110,000. We've heard that it probably won't reach that number, but.
I just wrote down the wrong number.
Yeah.
I apologize. Okay, so I didn't entertain a motion for the spending authority of up to 110,000 for phase one of the I Hall.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Trustee Palmer and seconded by Trustee Anderson.
No, that will beat me.
Okay, we're gonna fight about it. It's been moved by Trustee Palmer and seconded by Trustee Williams for the approval of the spending authority up to 110,000 for phase one of the I Hall. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Trustee Palmer, thank you very much, because I would do right on without. Upcoming events, because that's the only public comment. I don't believe there's any other further public comment. Upcoming events, we've got the WC Wyoming Community College Commission and the WACT meetings, Casper, April 18th and 19th. The Sonnets and Chocolates, 7 p.m. Pronghorn Center, April 26th, coming up about a week and a half. Looks like a delightful event. We are not co-sponsoring the event with Belknap Golf Course. That's just going to be held by the Belknap Golf Course Committee. But if you want to go enjoy a Kentucky Derby night on May 3rd, they race horses and roll dice. It's kind of fun and you spend some money. So the Booster Club Golf Tournament is May 4th, 9 a.m. shotgun. Thank you to Trustee Williams. He has a friend, former student that he taught that is going to help sponsor that event, but we are sold out. We have 40 teams, which is one more than
A lot.
yeah, 40 teams. So if you all hope and really pray for good weather, we would love that. Governor's Lunch, Camplex, May 9th, 11:30 a.m. And then obviously Commencement Day, it's kind of a big day, May 10th. And there's a dinner.
Starting about 4 o'clock.
Starting about 4 o'clock with
Should have
dinner.
your, invitation.
Should have an invitation. It was all printing in an envelope. I got mine last night and it looks delightful. So
Who's our speaker?
Dr. Sandra Caldwell is our commencement
Oh,
speaker.
oh, that's right. Exciting.
She's good.
Look forward to seeing him.
Any further items, upcoming events we need to be aware of?
Chair McGrath, trustees, in your board packet, you do have the list of events for commencement day pending. First pending is at 1 p.m. And then if you're speaking, this year, trustee McGrath, you do have a sound check at 3 p.m. So, and then the
Okay.
dinner starts at 4:30. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
you confer the
Okay.
degree, sir.
Okay. Then I would move for adjournment.
So move.
Excellent. All right. Adjourned. Have a great week and month, and we'll see everybody less than a month. Yeah.
It's gonna be a long time.
Oh, that's nice.
Good.
Let's for lunch.
I think so.
I don't know, I don't have any on yet.
You good?
No,